Swaggy Vets, attention! Right pace, forward!
You are now on the set of the Swaggy Vets show. We do it for the sisters bros from coast to coast. A place where it's safe to go to make sure that a soldier's stories are told. All around the globe, going worldwide, representing military pride. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
You should already be at the position of attention for them boys when they come out, the original first Swaggy veteran. And then you got that boy Big Pen. Hey man, salute me or shoot me. And if you ain't no vet, you better not talk like one.
Boom. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Swaggy Vet Podcast. I'm your host, Big Pen. I got my co-host here with me, Swaggy Super. What's up, baby?
What's going on, Big Pen? Pleasure to be here on another Swaggy day, man. Always.
Hey, I need a big favor from y'all. Go down, hit that join button. We need your help with funding. You know, what do you get? You get to be a member of the Swaggy Vets, man. You get perks of getting behind-the-scene footage from us. You get perks of watching our videos before they even drop. So hit that join button, become a member, and we really appreciate y'all. All right, we got a special guest today, y'all.
Special guest.
Our guest today is an Air Force veteran and author of the good book, The Gutter Gospel, host who turned decades of bipolar struggle, addiction, and hard-won recovery into a mission of hope. He journaled over 35 years of journals, found purpose and faith, and now serves the lost and lonely with a message of grace, grit, and redemption. Please welcome to the show, my boy, Mike Smith.
Can't wait to get started, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for joining the Swaggy Vet Podcast today. All right, so hey, Mike, let's get into it, man. Tell us where you from. Where you know?
Yeah, well, I grew up I grew up in the Midwest, guys. I was born in Aberdeen, South Dakota. Lived there for about 3 years. My dad was a manager for the JCPenney clothing store line. And of course, as you guys well know, throughout the years, the bigger Amazon got, JCPenney kind of went away. But back in the day, this was in mid-'60s. I was born in 64 to be exact. He was responsible for not only myself, but my 4 siblings and a wife to feed. So they transfer them a lot, right, guys? And we only moved to Sauk Center, like I said, when I was 3. So that was in the central part of Minnesota. And lived there, had a good time, a lot of friends, but we'd move around a lot, you know, to different houses and stuff. My mom was always kind of riding my dad about the fact that we didn't have a lot of money. And my dad would like to drink on his days off, which were very few and far between. But yeah, he was a good provider. I'll say that about my dad. Fast forwarding now, in the interest of time, when I was 12 years old, they fired my dad from Penny's clothing store line to he was out of options, man. Like I said, he had that big family to support. So they had a life savings, and the parents decided, mainly my dad, my mom was not for this idea at all, to move up to a little town called Barnesville, Minnesota, a half hour outside of Fargo, just this little a hole in the ground, 2,000 people population. So now I'm 12 years old and got into half year of Catholic school because we moved over Christmas break of 76 and 77, got into high school half year later. Now I'm in 7th grade, meet my one and only friend in there named John Hansen, who I just found out a few years ago on Facebook that he took his own life. But John was my pal, man, bumping around with John and getting into smoking weed and drinking at an early age. And that kind of stuck with me all throughout my life. But anyway, so now for going from 12 years of age up until when I turned 15, my dad passed away of a massive heart attack, right? And now the family's stuck. I remember my mom coming home, trying to run the store to the best way she knew how, which was not very good. She had no experience because she was a stay-at-home mom the whole time. So anyway, she was making it clear to the kids, hey, we're losing the house to the bank. We're losing the clothing store to the bank. You're going to have to find your own way in life, right? So that was my first suicide attempt. It was about 6 months after that happened. I am a 2-time suicide survivor. And so I was down and out at that age, finished high school barely with really bad grades, tried my hand at college for a year, flunked out of that really quick, and joined the Air Force after all that dust settled. So now we're into the military days. I joined mid-July 84, got all my training down in Texas in Shepherd Air Force Base was where I was stationed, but my basic and schooling was down at Lackland. So that's where all the Air Force guys go for their training. So anyway, get in.
So how did it feel when your dad passed? What was that like? What shifted in your life after your dad passed?
Well, my dad was my hero, man, just like everybody in life. Dad's the hero. Dad's the guy that's always going to be there to protect you, right? Mm-hmm. And it was tough on me, man. I remember the day he died, walking up. My brother comes down the basement and says, hey, Dad's dead. So I go up there, and it's like seeing him laying there at that age can't but help have a big impact on your life, and it just was a really hard transition because like I was sharing a minute ago, I'd go out and partying it up just to numb the pain with my buddy John. And I'd come home messed up, and my mom would say, you're just like your dad. You're a drunk. You're never going to amount to anything. And I didn't share this with you guys, but I looked just like my dad, Okay. So the first chapter in my book that I journaled about was Born into Chaos, Little Joe. Because everywhere my dad would take me when we'd go fishing together and stuff, they'd say, hey, it's Little Joe and Big Joe, so that kind of is what I'm talking about, guys. My dad was my entire world. So losing him is what led me to that first suicide attempt. I felt lost and devastated.
Dang, so what was your first big rejection that set a pattern, and what was it and how did it echo later?
Well, the big rejection was kind of in high school. Like I said, when I was in grade school in Sauk Center, I had a lot of friends because my brother Pat is 2 years older than me. Then I got 3 sisters also. But my brother was my hero besides my dad, because Pat would always bring me into his sports games with all of his buddies, older kids, and kind of get the best out of me, beat on me sometimes when I needed to be beat on. But Pat's a good man. I just, he's kind of on a different spiritual path these days in life, but we can talk about that later. But anyway, he protected me a lot, man, growing up. So, but yeah, rejection was part of that move to Barnesville. Everybody seemed to hate me, except John, so I'd get in a lot of fights in high school. And so, with all that in the background going on, then you lose your dad at 15 years of age. And it's like, holy crap. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And like I said, that was the first suicide attempt.
So when did journalism first become like a survival mechanism for you, not really schoolwork?
Yeah, well, it just so happens that journaling started many years later in around, I don't remember the exact year, but it was like in the 90s sometime when this guy came on Oprah Winfrey's show called In a Million Pieces with his so-called autobiography, if you guys can remember that, right? Mm-hmm. And if you remember that, it was all made up, or the vast majority of it was made up. And Oprah invited him back on the show to chew his rear end out for coming on the book club with a false book. So I'm thinking to myself and my wife, at this point in my life, I'd already cycled a couple times for mania, and I said, I could write a better book and it would all be true. So that's when I started journaling. It was after the Air Force. It was after like I said, after the mental health issues. So that's when I started journaling. I didn't know it at the time, but it was going to be a survival mechanism for me all those years going through the treatment centers and everything else that you guys have read about in my bio. So, but yeah, I just always had that as my outlet. I don't know why, other than that. I think God had his hand on me. Looking back on my life now, I can see all the times where I tried to take my life. I was down and out and everything else. And writing was a big part of making sense of it all.
So kind of like writing was kind of like an outlet for you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow, 35 years of writing. Did that help inspire the book?
Yeah, it did. I was sharing this with you earlier, Brad, before we came on air about losing my best friend to cancer this past December 14th, named Brad Witzke. And I just remember that it was always a depressed and low time of my life seeing Brad die. And about 2-3 weeks after he passed away, I decided, with all that journaling I'd been doing for all the years, to actually wind up getting it published. And that was in January this past year, of this year, I should say. And that was through Brooklyn Publishing out in New York. They did an excellent job, I do believe, in the ghostwriting that they helped me kind of get that good spin on it. And I really am proud of the end result of that book, which I'd like to mention here, is found at the bottom of my homepage on the guttergospel.com. If you go there, you can pick it up for $7.99 and read all about it. And, it's all the journaling professionally put together. So it's money well spent. The people that do read it can't believe what I had to endure, which I shared quite a bit with Brad before we came on air. So, but yeah, it was a tough road, guys, real tough road.
Man, that's what's up. It sounds like it was. One quick question though. Behind you, I see a lot of pictures with planes on it. Was those pictures you put up, or those single plane pictures you put up right there?
That's all my son doing. That's a good question, Swaggy. Brad was asking about that before, and I said that I like doing all my shows from here because I love my son unconditionally with all my heart, and his big dream in life is to be a pilot. So this is what you're seeing in the background is when he was a kid, he'd be so fascinated with being a pilot, he cut out all these pictures of airplanes and scotch taped them to the wall.
Okay. Well, that's a good idea to have, man. What he's striving for, man. I hope he accomplishes it, man. All right, then let's get back into it now. Why the Air Force? Why not the Marines? Why not the Army? And what did you hope it would fulfill that you needed in your life at that point?
Well, that's a good question, Swaggy. I guess the reason I joined Air Force was my dad was in the Air Force, so it's kind of that effect. I did for no other reason. I just decided I'd go Air Force because my dad did. He served in the Korean War, and he wasn't there to see me, enlist in the military, but I think he did have that impact on me, and that's how I ended up. Not to mention, also the Air Force has the shortest amount of basic training. And you guys did the hard lifting for us Air Force guys, jumping out of the planes and doing all those tough chores, and all the Air Force guys kind of just flying you to place, So, but I never saw combat, guys. I was training NATO pilots for the whole time I was in. So, but that was a fun job. Didn't prepare me for anything outside of there, So, but yeah, like I said, I got kicked out of the Air Force after just over 2 years in for smoking weed. So, kind of a whole story in and of itself.
Man, I think a lot of folks can tell that same story. But take us back to a moment you felt like you was supposed to be in that uniform for that while. Can you put us in that mind frame of when you got there before and then?
Yes, sir. It didn't really happen until after basic training, to answer it honestly. I came home on leave, and my mom saw me at the airport. All of a sudden, I wasn't this drunk that was falling down coming home drunk every night in high school. I was a young man in uniform, lean and mean, and, and she just was so proud of me. And so I think that answers your question, is that I didn't really see it until I got accepted by her, because she was struggling with mental health her entire life, and never, would have a nice thing to say about me growing up. So that was kind of the moment it turned. So, yeah.
Another hard issue, man. The parents, and one parent gone, one parent don't pretty much like you, man. So I guess that's what, even before then, that substance that showed up, like when you start using substances, what is it? It was it escape, or was it fuel, or was it self-punishment?
Yeah, Swag, I think if I were to answer that honestly, I think it was a combination of all those things, because when you're under the influence, it's like you really don't care what other people think. And it numbs the pain. So it does all those things. That's why it's so freaking addicting, and why so many people get caught up in that trap. And when I named my book what I did, The Gutter Gospel, is because, I think there's a lot of people that can resonate with, that have been in the throes of addiction or mental health or whatever. If nothing else, growing up for everybody's hard enough. I write about the fact that ever since the fall of mankind, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. There's no such thing as a perfect family. So I just tell it like it is and say, you know what, we all struggle with something, man. And if you can come out the other side of it, you're still here for a reason, which is to bless other people. And I shared a little bit about that with Brad before I came on air today. But God wants us to carry out the Great Commission. I always tell people, I read The Purpose-Driven Life. And if you, not to spoil the ending of that book, but once you read through all 40 chapters, that's how it ends, which is your purpose in life is to carry out the Great Commission with all your God-given talents and abilities. You can look at a set of twins with this look exactly alike, but they could have talents completely different and interests completely different than the other one. We're all born individually. No two people look alike, and they're all given great gifts by God, our Creator.
Amen, bro. And like I say, after you got put out for smoking marijuana, like what did your brotherhood and self-worth feel like? Like if you could have one conversation before you got put out, what would it be?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that before. But when I was being kicked out, all those guys kind of turned their back on me, that were also getting high with me, that were supposed to be my friends and everything else. And it's kind of like where the rubber met the road, because when the pressure was really cranked up on us all, everybody kind of started just leaving you alone in life. So I had headed back to Fargo Moorhead to kind of try and start my life over, packed everything I had in the back of a U-Haul, strung out on drugs, coming back here, and was you talk about rejection, man. Now I'm being kicked out. I got that scarlet letter over my head, and I'm like, now I'm being rejected even worse by everybody back home too. So it was a tough life, like I shared, man, and journaled about. It was, I don't know if you guys read the sample chapters on my website of what happened there with the manic breaks, but when you get time, you can check those out. It's graphic writing about what happens when somebody really snaps with mental illness, and that's the journaling part that tied in. They always say about people that have bipolar like me that they're very creative people. They all have great ability to express themselves some way or somehow, and mine just happened to be through writing.
That's good. That's a good outlet to have. Sure.
Yep. Hey, Mike, so for people who really can't understand, for people who's never been there, what does a manic high feel like at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, that's something that is very graphic and mentioned in detail in my book, which is, I'll share one episode with you guys that's in the book later, kind of in chapters, called The Richest Man in the World, Cage Madness. Right? What happened was during that particular episode, they took me up to the VA, and I was in the psych ward for 5 weeks. And when they first got me in there, this doctor was working with me saying, what's going on, you know? And so I started to try and explain it to him. But I said, man, I own the VA. And I'm going to sue your rear end and all this other stuff. So I'm talking just totally gone mentally, right? And so he shares, well, you know, are you a prophet and all this other stuff? Because I was talking about faith and all this. And it was like, people around you look at you when you're in mania with the biggest eyes. And that's the part that I would always know that I was cycling, was everybody around you is like, this guy is not making sense, you know? And it's tough, man, because there's even more rejection tied to that, you know, with mental health issues. It's like, who do you talk to? Who do you relate to? And that's why I like doing these podcasts, because it's like I can bring that awareness, you know, to my audience and say, this is what it's really like, guys, but there's hope for you on the other side. You know, I'm a big advocate these days. I don't know if you can see this, but it says 22 veterans per day. And that represents the fact that that's the amount of veterans roughly that take their own life every day. And that number is far too high. So I'm an advocate for mental health as well as other things too. So
100%, man. So take me through, because I've never been to a psych ward. I couldn't even imagine what you had to go through, but what's it like? What does it smell like?
Yeah.
What's in there? What still sticks with you about being there?
Well, the first thing they do is they take your shoes off, right? Because they don't want you hanging yourself with your shoelaces, so you don't have your shoes. And the other thing is you hear the screams coming out of the other rooms when people are cycling. So you're cycling, they're cycling, and it's total freaking chaos. And it's like the one thing I can share with you guys where the worst episode was that I can relate very clearly to you, and I mentioned this to Brad before we came on air about being in the state mental institution, right? Mm-hmm. They stuck me out there and actually institutionalized me, okay, for 6 weeks. And every week they'd put me in shackles in the back of a paddy wagon because I was so mentally gone. They would shuttle me from the state hospital in Jamestown, 100 miles from here, back to Fargo to stand trial before different judges to beg for my freedom. And 5 weeks in a row, I was rejected. So I'd have to go back to the state mental institution. And I'd hear these screams, you know, coming from the room above and all around me, like I mentioned before, you know. So it was hell on earth is basically what I experienced. I write about a chapter that's on the website for my sample chapter about touring hell in a padded jacket, straight jacket, in a padded cell for 3 straight days, right? Seeing everything of what it would be like to be in hell. And, you know, there's this man in my small men's group that say, Mike, he always says this to me. He said, Mike, you've got quite the testimony, man, because a lot of people have died and gone up to heaven to come back to say how beautiful it is. But I don't know of many people that have gone to hell to come back to tell people how horrible that is. So I like to share that with people because it's like, it's for all the marbles, man. Eternity is. And I got a buddy of mine that says, Mike, it's either the smoking or the non-smoking section when it comes to eternity. Right? And it's like, I'm getting the message out. I'm really excited about being on all these shows because I have that platform and I talk about how God took me from the gutter, the mental institutions, the homeless shelters, the psych units, you name it, man, jail, all that stuff to come out the other side and say, there's hope for you. I'm the prodigal son, probably the ultimate prodigal son that ran so far away from God that finally got his senses about him and turned back and came back to Christ to have a loving relationship with my creator so I can help other people. I love my favorite verse in the Bible, guys, which I'll share with you now, which is Revelations 12:11. we've overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, right? There's power in your testimony, guys. You've been through the trenches in war. You've been through all that stuff, man. Everybody's got their unique story to share, and it's all to bless the kingdom, right?
Absolutely. You said it, man. God's got a purpose for all of us.
Yes.
What's the saying you got on your website at the bottom?
The day you were born, the two most important days of your life are the day you were born, and then the second day is the day you understand why.
Day you understand why, absolutely.
And
now
that's go ahead, guys. Sorry.
Now going back, how did you feel standing in front of a judge? And what truth do you wish you knew then that you know now?
I felt scared first. I was intimidated because, if he's got all the power to decide your fate, so I was intimidated and scared, and I was still cycling from mania. So there was that part too. And I couldn't articulate myself to him clearly like I can with guys now on these shows, because now my medications are balanced and stuff after all those years. But yeah, and it's the ultimate rejection. I would go back and they'd put me in the paddy wagon and take me back to the state hospital. I'm sitting there in tears and riding by myself in chains, thinking, what in the world did I ever do to people to deserve this treatment? And the thing I think that came out of it all, guys, that I'd like to share with you is I can look back now and say it gave me an empathetic heart to people that are struggling severely in life. That's, I think, why God put me through all that stuff, and very few other people, had to endure all that. It's to give you a soft spot in your heart so that when you do encounter those people, that you love on them and say, what can we do to help? So.
Oh, absolutely, man. So when did I'm sick, not evil finally land?
Well, to be honest with you guys, that's a question also I haven't ever been asked, but I believe that it kind of took its turn once I got out of all of those facilities years later and got my medications balanced only through the help of my good doctor at the VA, Dr. Hayter, who I just happen to have an appointment coming up here in a few days with him again. So he kind of saw me for the person that I was, which is what I was just sharing with you guys about having all that talent and stuff, and to say, we just need to work with you as much as possible to get your medications balanced, because now I can actually get some good sleep. And that makes all the difference in the world in my mental makeup, to be able to not be all over the board, either severely depressed or severely high on mania. So, yeah.
Oh, I get you. So what was your mindset when you finally accepted help? What made you do that?
I think it was seeing myself alone in the state hospital after the 5th rejection and sticking me back there. I'm crying, right? I'm just covered in tears. I'm thinking to myself, what in the world did I ever do to deserve this? Just having a big pity party. I look up, guys, and there's this plaque on the wall. True story. It says, you've been given this life because you're strong enough to live it. And I remember it was like God kind of hit me right between the eyes with that, saying, you know what, you might be down and out now, but you're going to come out of this sometime in the near future to bless other people mightily. And that's what I do by spoiling guys like you folks with the chippers and the shirts and the wristbands, and kind of doing my own thing. I'm not Swaggy Vets, but I'd like to be a member if you got an opening.
Always, man. Always.
Yeah.
What's up? It takes a lot. It takes a lot to ask for help, man. So that's real admirable right there, man. And also to take it, then accept it, and then work towards being better. That's something you get a salute for right there from old Swaggy Super, man.
Yes, sir, man. I tell you what, I got that article published on my story here out in the Fargo Forum a couple weeks ago, and God had just opened those doors for me, after all the journaling, to see it pay off in media now, and it's like what I said before about being alone. How many people that can you name that were a homeless veteran and go through all those mental wards and jail and all that other stuff to actually get media coverage on the biggest media outlet in Fargo? It's kind of funny when I look at it, but a lot of people are like, how in the world did he pull that off?
I can dig it. I guess we both got something in common, because after I retired, I went into a mental institution for a little while.
Yeah.
And I had to accept that, PTSD is not curable, but you can get to a point where you tolerate it and maintain it. So
yes, sir.
So it's hard, and I understand everything that you mentioned. I sat in the room that make you hug yourself for about 5 days myself.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. They talk to you and they ask you things that they should already know the answer to, and it makes you feel even more a little out of it.
Yes,
So,
sir.
So I definitely understand it, man. But like what thought that shows up? What thought showed up before you attempted it, and like what do you think about it now, and what stops it at this point?
Yeah, I didn't share this with you folks yet, but the second suicide attempt kind of ties into that. After I had that experience in the padded cell in hell for 3 straight days, I was all over the board mentally. I couldn't function at my job, so I was fired as the city transit manager. Not the manager, but the project manager, where I had all these employees underneath me. And anyway, so the only job I could find, guys, was being a taxi cab driver at night, driving all the drunks around, right? And all the mental people. But anyway, so I was so sick of all the abuse. They'd get in your cab intoxicated at night and say, "What's the matter, loser? You can't find a real job," and all this other stuff, right? Just beating on you mentally. And I'm like, I went home one night, started to string myself up with an electrical cord in the basement of our house. And I was just about to kick the stool out from underneath me. And there was a still quiet voice that said, "Mike, your life still has a purpose," And I remember just, again, in tears, just thinking, I can't do this. I can't follow through with taking my life, So that was the second suicide attempt. And, I just have, like I said, so many stories from all those years. When I was being kicked out of the Air Force, this one you guys will appreciate. There's this little old lady that came up to me with a Bible tract, those little portable ones. So I'm up there waxing ambulances out in the hot Texas sun before they were going to boot me like 2-3 days later out the back gate. She comes up to me. She goes, "Excuse me, sir, but can I hand you one of these?" So I start reading it. I'm like, I look at her and I said, "I can't accept this," right? She goes, "Well, why not, Mike?" Because I'd told her my name. And she said, and I said, "Because first off, I'm not a Christian. Second off, I'm an alcoholic. And third, I'm a drug addict. And last but least, I'm being kicked out of here in about 2-3 days." She goes, "Oh, Mike, let me pray with you." And God loves sinners. And she's telling me all this stuff, right? And I'm just it goes in one ear and out the other. I just wasn't ready to accept it. So there's all those stories in the book about how God had his hand on my life through all those years, and he does on everybody's. It's just a matter of you humbling yourself to see it.
Okay, I got you. That's man. Yeah, you know what? God first. You can't go wrong with God at all. You can't definitely go wrong with God at all. And I love
Yes,
it.
sir.
So with that said, hidden alley that kept you tethered, like the person, habit, or promise. Like, what I'm saying? Elaborate on that for me.
Well, basically, yes. It was my wife and my son, because they were through all the wars and battles with me. I got my son set up with a new car and all this stuff. Not that it's about material things, but I know that I need to repay them, and I don't know that I ever will be able to the rest of my life, because what I write about in the book, and again, not to promote that so much, but it's talking in there about how much they had to endure having me around as a husband and a dad. And the reason I wound up in the homeless shelters was because my wife was just saying, we can't accept to have you around the house anymore in your mental state. And that's what put me on that journey. So now that my meds are balanced, I'm back home living with her, that, you know, things are slowly improving. It's a long journey in my life, having to do that. But to answer your question, is that's who I'm really kind of focused on the most these days. And I have a very tight circle of friends in my small men's groups and at the jail chaplain ministry that I'm involved with up in Fargo. So surrounding myself with lots of good people, but the heart of my story is really about my family. And all the family on my sibling side have rejected me and never will get back in touch with me, I believe, and that's okay. Kind of learned to accept that fact. I still stay in touch with my brother. He happened to write the dedication in my autobiography about my wife, so he's got a great gift to write. But like I said earlier, he's not spiritually on the same plane as me, but he's still close. We remain close and tight.
Okay, well, that's good that the brotherly love still there, man. Like, the thing about it is, what do you want families and people to know about loving someone that's in a place like that? Like, what would you tell them to tell that person that's going through something that you mentioned?
Love on those people, man, as much as you can, even with their challenges in life. It just so happens that a very dear friend of mine has a daughter that's living at home with him and his wife, that's beating on him, that's silent, and going through the mania and all this stuff. And, that mental illness stuff, and it's getting worse year by year. The more they make these drugs stronger and stronger, people are having all those mental problems as a result. And so that's why I'm a big mental health advocate, and getting my story out to as many people as I can is to say that, please get in with a good organization that you trust. If you don't trust anybody, man, reach out to me. Okay. I'll say that right now. I always give out my private email when we're not on air and on the show notes, so people can reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help them and get them going in the right direction. I put links up on my website, the suicide prevention line, the 24-hour prayer line, and a few others as well that are up there saying help for everyone. So I firmly believe there is help for everyone. No one's wasted. God had you in mind when he created the foundation of the earth. As you well know, that's in the Bible. So you're not here, man. You're not a mistake, So just get the help you need. Like I said, if you don't trust anybody, Mike's been through the wars, man. Who else do you know that's been like as much through mentally as I have? I'm sure there's others, but most of them have taken their own life or are no longer with us. And that's why I have that awareness on my custom gear. So, but yeah, that's why I'm here, guys, to love on people and to share my story.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. It's so far as a hard. We done had a couple of emotional interviews these last few times, man, and I can tell it's been a real ride for you, my brother. And I'm glad that you're still here to speak with us and just pretty much share your story with us in this time. I just want to take time out to tell you appreciate for that, man. And
yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's what's up, man. Speaking to the listener tonight, what's your first step after this episode to really, try and do and push the mind frame of helping people that's in some of these emotional places?
Well, I know I shared this with Brad before we started to record, but I'm involved now with this food pantry out here to help the poor that are not having anything in life. They're struggling with their family to keep their household in order, just to feed themselves and stuff. So I volunteer out there. I finance those guys. I'm a fundraiser for those guys. I do a lot of stuff for those guys. So that's the next step, is after the show ends, I'm scheduled to go out there and bring them food. And then tonight we're doing the distribution for the food drive, hand that out to those folks, like I said. And so many amazing stories, just the short time I've been involved with them. So those people just love on you, man, when you're out there handing them food, smiling with them, and just saying, hey, how can I help? And that kind of thing. Hand out my custom wristbands, my business cards, saying, hey, call me, look me up, and, I'll help you out the best way I can. So that's kind of what I'm all about these days, is like trying to minister to people one-on-one, or on shows like this that might reach a certain amount of audience, or a bigger audience or a smaller audience. It's not relevant to me how big or small podcasts are. What fuels me is to say, share your testimony, like I shared earlier about that Bible verse, so.
Absolutely, man.
That's
So
sure.
for 35 years, you kept a journal. Why keep writing when nobody's reading it?
That's part of the mental illness, man. Maybe, I don't know. That's a good question, man. I never stopped to think about that. It's kind of like Forrest Gump, run, Forrest, run, right, Mike, right. So there's why, guys, this is the truth. This is what started it. I never stopped back and really kind of wanted to journal. But I had bought these Tony Robbins tapes, these personal power ones back in the day, right? And I know you guys are both younger than me, but that came out around late 90s, okay, 98 or 9, Personal Power with Tony Robbins. So he I was listening to his tapes, and one of the first things he said is, any life worth living is a life worth writing down or journaling, or I forget the exact phrasing of it, but that's kind of what's stuck in my head, to say, okay, I got a story to tell, but how do I tell it? And I didn't know for decades how to actually get it put together until just this January, after losing my dear friend Brad. So just wanted to get it out there to the public to see if it could help others. And I know now that it's having quite an impact, which I'm very grateful for. My shows have been on over 100 countries now, and almost every continent since the first of the year, doing these podcast guest appearances. So talked to a dude in South Africa, where I know Brad spent a little time in Africa. That guy swims with sharks, and talking to people in the UK and Brazil and Australia and all over the place, going on those shows and just sharing my story. And sometimes I get emotional and cry about the pain, and other times we get laughing with the hosts and stuff. And it's a good time, it's just being honest and raw and saying, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't have all the answers, man, because nobody really does. I think if you were to ask for somebody that has been through the wars and is raw and honest enough about it to journal about it, it's at least worth checking out. I do have a donate now tab where people can donate up on my website if they feel they are so inclined to. But yeah, I just am blessed, man. 100% service connection. I got that in 2019, so that I came out of that poverty and all that other stuff to now be able to network with other vets and help those folks out as much as I can as well. I did just get a notification here yesterday. I was sharing this with Brad about now how there's a state representative, he's not a congressman or anything, but he just helps veterans out that are trying to come out of jail and get acclimated back into society. So they want me, after they read that article about me, to help them be one point person in the state to help those veterans. So that's something I'm looking forward to, as well as, the food pantry and everything else I mentioned. So,
that's awesome. Congrats on that, for that. So, and that's one of the biggest reasons we started this, Mike, podcast is to, what do we like to do as veterans? We like to talk. We like to BS. It's kind of like therapy to us, you know?
Yes, sir.
So is there anything that you left out of the book? Maybe you wanted to keep it private or
yeah,
from maybe?
Yeah, the one chapter I left out was called Isolation Island. And I remember writing that when it was from the cab driving days, like I was talking about. And this buddy of mine that was the only friend I had at the cab company came to my house one night and he goes, "Where do you get all this stuff from?" Because there was like 20 pages front and back, you know, about being lonely. And it was like I was just being creative again, you know, and honest, and journaled through that, what that was like. And that didn't make the book. The book is all about stuff that really was raw and honest, and just telling my story, man, to the best way I knew how. And like I said, it came together beautifully. If you guys get a chance, there's a chapter in there that is not up on the sample chapters on my website. It's called Sea of Tears, the Parable of the Muddy Penny. And when you read that chapter, it's found on pages 70 through 75. You're going to see in there how Christ appeared to me in a dream one night. And that's kind of what turned it all around, the Sea of Tears. So lots of sorrow turned into purpose.
Awesome. At what point did the journalist become an author?
When I hired Brooklyn Publishers. Because they were like, and my brother even said, you know, after reading it before they got a hold of it, he goes, "Mike, your autobiography runs like a what do you say again? A lawnmower repair guide." It's that rough, hard to read and hard to make sense of. And my dearly departed mother-in-law was responsible for lots of prayers over the years, but she was my editor because my grammar is that bad. She would sit with me for hours on end at night. And as I was handing her my stuff, she was like, "This is so broken of a sentence. What did you mean to say here?" So there was a lot of people involved to kind of get it from that journaling into a published book. So it was a process, guys. Yeah, it was definitely a process.
Now, did having a journal, writing everything down to publishing, did that give you some, what's the word I'm looking for? Did that give you some relevance that people couldn't?
Yeah, it made it more reader friendly and more professionally done than I could have ever done on my own. You know, that was before AI was really kicking in big with all that stuff. I could have just put it into something with AI. I think that probably could have got it together better, but didn't think of that at the time. So had to have Brooklyn Publishers get a hold of it and kind of put their spin on it. So they did an excellent job. You know, I got a lot of compliments from people that have read the book. So I know your buddy James out in San Diego, like I said, he read it and really could relate to it. There's so much in there that comes from the streets and the mental health aspect of things, and jail and everything else we talked about. And it's like, you know, everybody in life to one degree or another could relate to some or parts, or if not all of the book. It's an easy read, and there's a lot of sleepless nights and hell on earth, having lived through it all, to come out the other side and, you know, like I said, talk about it now in the hopes to help other people heal.
That's what's up, man. Good. That's again, well, you're amazing to me, man. You're already part of Swaggy Vets crew, if you ask me, man.
Amen, brother. I appreciate that a lot.
Now I'm gonna ask you a few questions about the book. Tell the Sea of Tears dream. What did Muddy Pennies unlock for you?
Yeah, that was really clear to me in that dream. This was just a few years ago, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but so I'm seeing this just endless clear sea, just no waves on it, just like glass, right? Just beautiful. And then off to my right, behind me, there was this great, enormous stack of muddy, filthy pennies, right? Then off to the farther right, I could see this great, big, beautiful, gorgeous waterfall with all the multiple colors you couldn't even imagine flowing into the Sea of Tears, right? Then all of a sudden, Christ appears to me, and I saw the scars on his feet, the scars on his hand, and he said, "Dear Michael, do you know the meaning of this place?" And I said, "No, Lord, what is it?" And he said, "The sea that you're looking at is referred to as the Sea of Tears. And the waterfall off to the right is where all the prayers from heaven are gathered and flow into the Sea of Tears, where we hear them and answer them from heaven. And behind you, the parable of the muddy pennies is that's how valued every individual on the planet sees themselves these days. No more value when they look in the mirror than they can see themselves that worthless. So it's your job to grab one from the pile and bring it to my feet and wash it in the Sea of Tears until it shines like a brand new penny, right? So I grab one off the stack and I go over and wash it at the feet of Christ in the Sea of Tears for what seemed like forever in the dream. And so I hand it to him and he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant, Michael. Now, here's the meaning of this place. You have helped out one penny to shine brand new. And the penny now will take another one from the mountain of pennies and work with that penny and shine it and spend as much time possible with that individual until they shine brand new too and feel self-worth about them going forward."
That's so deep.
Yeah, we're helping one at a time is the point. You know, we're not here to help the world. We're here to spend as much time loving on one person that might have all my issues and other issues to then get them feeling better about themselves, getting through the system, and helping out another one. So that's the message of the Sea of Tears.
Yes, no, I got. And then the next one I want to ask you is the lady with the Bible tract in Texas heat. Like, what does that moment still preach to you this day?
Yeah, that's a good question, Swaggy. So it came full circle in my life, right? Because I wear this custom gear. And so I got these wristbands. I showed it to Brad, and I'm standing in line at a grocery store, and there's this there's this veteran in front of me, right? Because he had his VA card out with his ID to pay for his food. And I said, "Excuse me, but I'd like to give you one of these," right? And he goes, he looks at it and it says theguttergospel.com with 2 crosses on it, on each side of it, right? And he said, "Well, I can't accept this because I'm not a Christian." So he's sharing the same stuff about it, that I shared back in the day. So I'm like, okay, but I'm not going to hold it against you for now that you're wearing one of those Bears jerseys. So I'd made a joke out of it, right? He's a Chicago Bears fan. But I said, "Thank you for your service. We parted friends," and it's like, some people are going to accept it. Some people aren't. So that's kind of the lesson I learned from that, regardless of what you've been through in life, man. It's just meeting people where they're at these days and being real with them.
Hey, man, that's how you could be. If you can't be real, please don't be fake. Like that. Right now, where has God's grace surprised you recently?
With all the blessings, man, with all the blessings. I mean, ever since I turned in my trip to go to Orlando, I don't know if you know this about me, Swaggy, Brad does, but I was going to go to Orlando to pitch my story at the Storytellers Conference, which is in Orlando, Florida. It just happened this early part of this month. And I was all set to go. I had my plane ticket bought, the hotel set, everything. The registration fees was all paid. And that's before I went out and saw that operation at the food pantry. And that night, God was working on my heart saying, you're not going to Orlando, man. You're going to be here working as a servant in the food pantry. And you're going to give that money, or most of that money, away to the food pantry people to help them and bless their ministry. So now I'm like a fundraiser for them. That's what the donations tab is all about on my website, to raise money for those guys, because they get almost all of it. And it's that's how it's come full circle in my life. You know, it's more about being a servant and being humble about it than any movie deal ever could have been about my life. And I'm still in real good contact with those people from ICBM. Paul Simmons is the guy that runs it all. And so maybe one day, you know, the story will come into a movie. I don't know. If it does, it's great. If it doesn't, yeah, just be icing on the cake if it did. I already got the article published, and I'm taking that to this new software platform that I was sharing with Brad, and I'm going to get on there and pitch it to other national journalists and stuff to see if it can get picked up on a broader scale. So that's what I'm up to these days, is trying to spread the message even broader, you know, as much as possible.
What's one practice that keeps you grounded in faith, that just keeps you solidified and knowing this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what I need to do, this is what I'm going to do?
Yes, sir. Good question. So I'm involved with all these different small men's groups in town, okay? Through the jail chaplains. I lead a small men's group on Thursday nights over at the Salem. I'm in West Fargo, so Salem Moorhead is clear across town. And we read out of the Life Recovery Bible. I happen to have one right here. And, you know, that's God's view of looking at us that struggle in life, which is everybody. So we read out of that. I put together the lesson plans and outlines for the guys. That's Thursday nights. Wednesdays is Bab's Bible study in the basement of that coffee house. Tuesday nights, we've got another group in the evenings and the food pantry distribution. So my point being is that every day of the week is booked with me with some kind of small men's group to keep me grounded, and then church on Sunday. So I'm booked 7 days a week. During the day, I like to do these shows to get me stay focused on what I'm supposed to do, both as far as getting the message out, and then with the small groups in the pantry, stay grounded. So that's how to answer that one.
Gotcha.
You got amazing stuff going on, Mike, and we're glad to have you on to talk about it. What story do you chase that others avoid, do you think, and why?
What story do I chase?
Yeah, what story do you chase that others avoid? And what I mean by that is story of your life. Some people are embarrassed to talk about their life.
Yeah.
You go all in and just be totally transparent. And I think people need that because it's raw, it's uncut.
Yeah.
So I think people love your authenticity.
Yeah. And what I will share with you, Brad and Swag, is that that lady that interviewed me for that article in the Forum said to me, she goes, Mike, you know, if you had to give me a one-word answer as far as what makes your podcast shows stand out from the others, or is a good quality of your shows that you do, what is it? One word answer. And I said, I think if I had to pin it down to one word, I'd say it's authentic. You know, people can tell I've been through those battles. You know, you look at my shoulder, it's got a great big scar in there. And, you know, from being in fights and stuff in the homeless shelters, and it was hell, you know, and I don't sugarcoat any of that. It's just the raw truth about how bad my journey in life really was. And that resonates with people. It's like, hey, if Mike can survive all that, maybe there's hope for me. So like I said earlier, I'm kind of a poster child for being the ultimate prodigal son, running away from God all my life to come home full circle and say, now that I'm here to go all in and, you know, serve out my remaining days on earth, serving God. I wrote myself an email yesterday, which I can share with you. The crux of it was the parable of the hidden talents. Are you going to hide your talents, or are you going to share them with the world with the gifts you've been given? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a message I need to hear. That's a message everybody needs to hear. You're going to hide all your talents that you've been given and being blessed with, or are you going to just sit on them and continue to be, hiding from them? I know a lot of people that are doing that right now, that are either still addicted or still this or still that, ashamed, like Brad said, or whatever, to get their message out. I'm here to blow the doors off that and say there's no need to do that, man. Get your message out there while it's still, there's still time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think success looks like a year from now for your podcast?
I believe it's to get it out to as many people as I know how, with the best platforms that I know how to get it out, pushed out to as many people as possible. I shared with you, Brad, that I'm looking at that one, as you know, and I'm going to be honest about what I find in that one. If that one's the solution, I'll be happy to share it with everybody.
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to be the poster child to be the first one. I've already paid the fee to see how good it works. And then if it does actually stand the test, I'm going to get it out to everybody. They've got an affiliate program set up, so I might make a little money at that, but that's not the point. The point is, if it's good, we're going to all be on it and getting our message out. Every one of us is going to be getting our stories out there on whatever platform is the best.
Absolutely. So give us a call to action. What do you need from the Swaggy Vet community?
Well, from the Swaggy Vet community, I'd appreciate it if they would donate, to the Donate Now tab to help the food pantry out. I do take a small percentage of that. And in all transparency, with my disability, I'm 100% unemployable. And if you guys have done your homework, that means you can make exactly $15,650 annually before they will start looking at your benefits being taken away or affected in some way. So that means that I take a small percentage for my operation costs, which is basically just my high-speed internet and my membership to that software I was just talking about. But all the rest goes to the food pantry to feed the poor. So
awesome.
Okay. That's what's up, man. Do me a favor. Finish this sentence, right? The gutter taught me what?
How to preach the gospel, man. You got to go through the gutter before you get to the gospel.
That's right. That's right.
You got to go through the gutter before anybody can preach the gospel, man. That's what all the trials and errors are all about. Right?
What they used to say back in the day, God's not looking for the people that's already in church. He's looking for the ones that need to be in church.
Right. Another way of saying it too is every sinner has a future and every saint has a past.
Amen.
Right? That's the way you got to look at it, guys. No one's perfect, man. We've all got stories to share. So get your story out there and bless other people.
Cool. Give me one scripture or quote that you carry in a cell, a courtroom, or whenever you got a platform to use a microphone. Like, what's one scripture that you always go to?
Psalms 40. Psalms 40 is, I dragged you out of the muddy pit and put your feet on a sure foundation.
Amen.
Right?
You can take that anywhere. You can take that into a courtroom. You can take that.
Yes, sir. We've all been in that miry pit, or the gutter, or however you want to phrase it, right, guys? It's like, hey, man, we've all been through those trials, right?
But yeah, we sure have. Now, give me some advice to a family that's exhausted by bipolar disorder or addiction. Like, what would be advice to those people, those families, those brothers, sisters, mothers, cousins, aunties, uncles, grandparents?
Well, I think by having me on today, I'm pretty much sure that people that hear my voice will feel comfortable in reaching out to me. Like I said, I would say, there's a lot of worthwhile organizations out there, but This could be maybe my own ego talking a bit, but I really believe just because I start every day reading those emails before I do anything else, right? And that's what I would ask of anybody. Look at the help now tabs on my website, start there. And if you still feel like, hey, that 988 number or whatever that one is for the vets, all the links that I have on my website, if you feel like, okay, those aren't the answer, I want to talk to Mike direct, email me. Okay. That would be my advice.
And also, close it out, man. Where to find you, book you, your podcast, any other things that you might have going on? Like, how can the people just really get in touch with you to focus on everything that you got going on? I know you mentioned a little bit, but like, just go ahead and reiterate that real quick for me so they can actually understand.
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube, put search in there, type The Gutter Gospel all together. You'll see some of the podcasts I've done. You can go on my website, contact me through that form. You can also pick up the book, or, you don't have to get the book. I would encourage it because that all goes to the food pantry as well. So tells the story, kind of brings everything full circle. So there's a lot of ways you can get a hold of me, but the easiest is by hit me up on my direct email. And that gets my attention faster than any other outlet does. Because like I just shared, I start every day by reading those. Then I read the Life Recovery Bible, start my day, get going on these shows, and everything else kind of trickles down from there.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right, everybody, man. Mike, we appreciate you coming on the show. It's been amazing hearing your testimony. It's been amazing hearing what you've been through and what you've overcome. So we really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Grateful to you guys for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, tuning in. Until the next one, stay swaggy, stay strong. Peace.
Peace.